I mean, I figured that out. When we started planning for the conference, there was some flux around who would be chairing what because everybody had a very full plate. But there was no flux around who should be our keynote speaker. Janet Childs is an incredible person, an incredible piece of our community, an incredible piece of our lives. Personally, Janet and I have been friends since the 70s. I'm not going to tell you how old I was in the 70s to be Janet's friend, but I was old. And in 2009, my husband and I lost our son to a heart attack, and we were called to the site, and the first responders were there. God bless them. And when the physician called to turn it off, then the first responders came out and talked to me. But the person who had been with me through the entire time was a Santa Clara police officer. I call him Officer Kevin. And when he tried, he was Sergeant Kevin. But he stood by me, and as you can see, I have a rather lay-by personality, so he wasn't at all sure what he was going to be doing with it. He said, "Is there someone I should call?" Thomas with me, but he was as devastated as I was. And I said, "Well, do you know Janet Childs?" He said, "Oh my God, yes. Do I know Janet Childs?" And he shot outside to the phone and called me Janet Childs to come over. And I thought, subsequently, what a powerful statement that is about the effectiveness of a woman in the community. That two people who had never met, who knew nothing about each other, both said the answer to the crisis was to reach for Janet Childs. Those of you who know Janet Childs have probably heard the story about the Heart Hotel. You know about that Heart Hotel. It's my personal, undocumented, but shared opinion that she probably has the biggest damn Heart Hotel in the entire world. Because once you get in the Heart Hotel, no matter what foolish little thing you do in the moment, she never throws you out. When it all goes awry, I was in North Carolina for another death in our family last week, and not quite 3 in the morning, but close to 3 in the morning. And so I thought, I'll just text her. That's like moving closer to her energy. So I text her and right back says, "I'm awake, honey. Why don't you just give me a call?" And I thought, oh my God, that's Janet Childs. She wakes up 2 minutes before you need her, so she can get her shoes on in case she has to run, and her heart open in case she has to pull you back together, and that's Janet Childs. So who could be a better person to speak to us about the value and the power of love? And I said, well, Janet, what does puzzle me sometimes is how you're so comfortable and conversant with any culture, any people, anything. And she said, well, the truth is I was an army brat. I don't know if many of you know this, but she said, we traveled. And I said, well, what were the most interesting assignments that your family got? And she said, well, one was in the back wilderness of Alaska. I said, that's an interesting assignment. And the other was in Paris. And I thought, is that Janet? She's the only person in town who could go from the wilderness in the backwoods of Alaska to the sophistication and everything that is Paris. So without further ado, let me present to you the person who is in our hearts, who makes us whole, who is always there, Janet.
Thank you so much. What an incredible introduction. I'm crying already. Who is this Janet Childs? The power of love. Let that sink into your being. The power of love. It is the binder that keeps us together. It is the binder that holds the world together. And when we talk about healing our heart, it is intimately connected my friends, to healing the planet. We cannot do one without the other. What often happens, though, is that we as helpers, as doers in the community, forget to heal our heart when we're healing the planet. And that's what this is about. This entire wonderful presentation, which I had help putting together, reminds us of just a few simple things. The power of love. Love knows no time and it knows no limit. So what does that mean? It means that we can count upon it no matter what. No matter what, my friends, we can count on love. And what I mean by that is when we are feeling alone, when we are feeling isolated, when we have gone through a rough, what we call, critical incident, we can call upon love. And as Mary so beautifully demonstrated, how can we call upon that love? By reaching out. You know, it takes great courage, Mary, to reach out. To say, you know what, I need a connection. I need help. We are taught in our society, in kind of the Anglo-American overlay society, to do what? Tough it up. Exactly. Exactly. Do it alone. We're very individualists in this society. Very, our self-worth is based on what?
Independent.
What we do, what we accomplish, how much money we make, and what we do in the world. So what I offer is that we take off the cloak of our overlay society today for the next few moments and just invite the society that's been created today by all of your presence here, which is a circle of love. And when we bring that circle of love to us, what it does and what it creates is it creates a power that cannot be denied. I see some people in the back row, of course, that are responders and caregivers on the front lines. Some of them have been doing it for longer than me.
Oh my God.
Now, the Center for Living with Dying has been around for 40 years. Can you believe it? 40 years. We're our 40th anniversary today. And I started when I was 3, so that was just saying. And in that moment, my friends, love knows no time, love knows no limits, we call upon our ancestors. Because when we give love and receive love, and this is the important part, when we are in that bad place, when we give love and also when we receive love, there is a power created because we're both interacting with each other. Because see, if Mary texted me at 3 o'clock a.m., and I've been holding her in my thoughts and prayers, and Tom and Tommy and everybody in the North Carolina crisis. And when she texted me, what did it give me the opportunity to do? Respond. Exactly. It gave me the opportunity to respond. And it became an antidote to stress, not only for Mary, but for me. Because what was I thinking? Oh, I wish I could call Mary. But it's like 0300, you know. I mean, I can't call her, this early in the morning. So when she texted me, it gave me the opportunity to respond, which created an infinity of giving and receiving, which increased the power of love. Increased the power of love. It's amazing, my friends. We got to bring it here to the circle. So we're often focused on the earth. We're often focused on our community. We're often focused on what? Each other. What is at the core of that circle?
You.
Self. Self is the hardest person to love. Self is the hardest person to love. It's the most difficult. We can be the most judgmental about ourselves, can't we? And I'm looking at a couple of my sisters. who have helped me with my own self-judgmental, mindset. And it's very difficult because there's a lot to judge. I mean, I don't know about you, but I make mistakes every day. So I was down at Monterey County doing a CIT training, which is a training for officers and responders to deal with mentally ill people. And I thought my presentation started at 0700, didn't start till 0800. So I'm there at the door. It's freezing in Salinas, and I'm knocking on the SO's door. I'm saying, please let me in. And this wonderful sergeant who's coming in from the night shift, I think, looks at me and says, Janet, you look familiar. Why are you here this early? I said, I think I blew it. I think I'm not supposed to be here until 8. But one of the things about that is, what did it give me the chance to do? Absolutely. We had a wonderful conversation. I never would have interacted with this sergeant had I come at the proper time. So it's trusting the universe, the world. And you notice we have the planet. What's behind the planet? That blue of the universe. That infinite energy source that we can call upon. So the universe brought me there, didn't it? So what appeared to be a mistake in my rational mind became what?
Opportunity.
Perfect opportunity.
Perfection and opportunity and a connection. This is very powerful. Connection. Love is all about connection. Love is all about connection. And, when we're in this moment of internal connection, we also have to realize that in order to have the external connection, we've got to have that internal connection to our own love source. We have to build that. We have to build the toolbox to make that external connection happen. And what happens is when we lose sight of our internal connection, what do we need to do? We need to reach out for support so that people can reconnect us to our internal connection. Reconnecting us is what many of you in this room, in fact, just about all of you that know me, have helped me to do in some way. I'm looking at Thea over there, my beautiful Thea. She is one of the bravest people I know because she works in an institution that is very unresponsive to responders facing stress and grief. And she has not given up. She has not given up. She is forging forward with creating their own critical incident stress management team. Many people in this room, you have the courage to help me connect. And let me tell you, I'm kind of looking at Ms. Sheila here and Ms. Una and Ms. Barbara, I'm not the easiest person when I'm out of connection to convince to get back into connection. So it takes a strong person, because we're all strong personalities, aren't we?
Yep.
That do any kind of helper or response work, my friends, we have to be strong, because I'm looking at my beautiful friend Brad, who's done every job in social services known to mankind. I think he's run the shelter, he's been a program manager, and he's now one of our incredible responders for our community crisis interventions. And you know what? We've got to be tough. We've got to have a strong energy that says, I'm out there, I'm doing it. Okay? Because what it creates is resources. Every time we give and receive, it creates resources that we can all draw upon. Thanks to wonderful Reverend Dr. Eileen, I got to be water with my beautiful friend and mentor, Jim. And I've got to say, it was such an honor, because being water is a resource, isn't it? Water is an amazing resource that we need to live. We cannot live without earth, fire, water, or air. But I'm particularly drawn to water because it flows, and it flows into crevasses, it flows into those secret, hidden places that maybe no other element can get to, but water can get there because it has the ability to surrender. It has the ability to surrender. It has the ability to open. And it has the ability to quench our thirst.
And strength and power.
Strength and power. Look at the ocean. Look at a tsunami. You want to be out of the way when that's going down. And also look at the deep lake of mystery. How calm it is, yet how deep it is. So all of these elements provide us with resources, don't they? We need to be able to call it forth, call it up. And that is why when we did the ceremony this morning, what we were doing is reminding ourselves and remembering ourselves to those resources, both internal and external. Love can heal. That's what I want you to take away from today. No matter what happens to you, no matter what occurs in your life, love is healing. And love is there as an infinite resource. Now, we often talk about in our classes at the Bay Area CISM team and the Center for Living with Dying program, we talk about the two things that can make stress and grief worse. One is being out of control. Can anyone relate to being out of control?
Yes.
And the other factor that we have found over the years, and the team's been doing response work for about 35 years of the 40 years of the Center for Living with Dying, is we have found that the other dynamic that makes stress worse is isolation. And the reason that I say isolation is because we are actually trained up to be isolated. And so it's very important to realize that even as hard as what we are going through is, we don't have to be out of control and we don't have to be isolated. And the bridge that makes that happen is love. So I'm going to go back to what Mary just shared. She texted me. She moved from out of control to in control by doing what? Reaching out and doing it and asking for help and doing an action step, as we call it. She did an action step for her own healing and connection, which then matched up with me because then I could respond. Does that make sense? I received the text, I could respond. And what that did is we did that with love, and so it increased the energy of protection, of safety, of comfort for both of us. This is very important, my friends. It's not just me. It's not just Mary. Both of us reaped the rewards of being in control of an out-of-control situation because we cannot stop events from happening to us. We cannot control critical incidents or our life path and changes we go through. But what we can control, my friends, is how we respond to it. And to have the vulnerability and the courage to reach out. This is huge, my friends. When we have that vulnerability, no matter what happens in the response, just our act of reaching out invites the universe to do what?
Respond.
Absolutely. Invites the universe to bathe us in comfort, in strength, in power, and in encouragement. This is so huge. It is so huge. If we can be that vulnerable to start the action of love. And, you know, I want to talk about this because our definition, where I work, of stress is this: anything that changes in our life. It can be positive, it can be negative. I'm looking at my wonderful, wonderful friend who started a team at AMR Paramedics. Okay? Amazing team. They do amazing work. They just called us up and we were able to respond to a family because the paramedics had literally put them in their rig and said, you know, Janet, we've got to take this family somewhere. We can't just leave them on the side of the road. And I was able to get one of our incredible responders. I met with the family first, and then I had to go somewhere else, and then this family was met by one of our amazing responders, and they were able to get connected to their family in San Francisco. And what had happened that day is their life had changed. Okay, they were going on a wonderful, wonderful event, okay, in the car. The car had a problem, and the man walked out of his car. It was on the side of the freeway, and unfortunately he got hit by another car in front of his son, his mother, and his wife. Okay, now the reason I'm sharing that, let's take a deep breath and release it, because they are moving forward and getting lots of support and help, and it all started with the paramedics saying, we're going to not leave you on the side of the road. We're going to take you in and provide that initial comfort and grief counseling. But stress is our natural response. So how many of you have ever broken up with a relationship? Okay? Anybody broken up?
Yeah.
Okay, breaking up is hard to do, isn't it? Okay. It's not fun. Okay, is that a grief process?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Also because the person is still alive. No. Bad joke. But what happens is, right, well, maybe. But what happens, my friends, is that do we get a lot of support for that kind of grief? No, we don't. No, we don't. And it's very struggling, you know, for people going through divorce. We used to have, when we had more money, at the Center for Living with Dying, and now we're merged with Bill Wilson Center, which is a great organization that provides amazing programs, 19 programs. So what we used to have a program called Death of a Dream, and it was for relationship breakup. When you had a death of a dream, it was huge. You know, and I'm looking at Sheila and Una and Barbara because they were all connected with the center. And Death of a Dream, it was a great group. And so it's our natural response to any change or loss. When our wonderful president, Richard, became president of UCM, was that a stressful experience? Oh, piece of cake! So I want to share something. Yes, this is praying. I want to share something, my friends. Emotional trauma is very similar to physical injury. Now, what this means is, Deidre, may I pick on you? If Deidre breaks her arm, what are we going to do?
Jump up and down and run around.
Take her to the hospital, have it set. Put a cast on.
We're going to have it set, aren't we? We're going to take her to the hospital. We're going to have it set. This is very important.
And we're going to look at her in a cast.
Right. We're going to look at her in a cast. Now, this is, again, very important. We're going to write sick jokes and draw pretty pictures, you know, on the cast. I mean, we're going to tease her a little bit. She's not going to get beyond that. But what we're going to do is we are visual, my friends, before we are verbal. Let me say that again. We are visual before we are verbal. So she can say, oh, my arm hurts. But when we see the cast on the broken arm, what does it tell us?
That's a broken arm.
It's a broken arm. It's an immediate, right. This is a visual symbol. And so we're going to take care of her, aren't we? We're going to bring her her bagel and her wonderful yogurt that our wonderful Reverend Gloria got for us. And so we're going to take care of her, aren't we? We're going to immediately take care of her. Now, what happens when you have a broken heart? You can't see it. It's invisible. However, in this room, what's the difference? When you enter this room, what happens to your broken heart?
Oh, it gets worked on by all the...
It starts feeling healing because we recognize the broken heart. It's our human experience. If we take a look at Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, any of the major prophets or religious folks, Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin chose to come back. I don't know what she was thinking. She chose to come back and say, I will help with the suffering of these people on the earth plane. Jesus wept. Shortest question, shortest thing in the Bible. And you know what it is when we recognize the broken heart, it can then be a mended heart. You know, we had an incident in Oakland PD where 4 of our officers died in the line of duty on one day. And one of the things that happened was I recommended to the chief that he allow his people to wear their badge ribbons beyond the funeral. Typically, they take the badge ribbons off. And so he said, that's a great idea, Janet. I'm going to offer it to my officers. And you know, one officer called me up. This was about 4 months later, and his sergeant, it was his FTO, had his training officer. And he said, I was really missing my sergeant. So he said, I slapped on my badge ribbon. And he said, I automatically felt better, Janet. He said, it was great. He said, my broken heart was actually, it was like a cast on my broken heart. Okay, it was like a cast on my broken heart. So he's going to a forfeit fee. He's going to a family disturbance. Now, he is a Vietnamese officer, and he is dealing with a Samoan family. Now, what do we know about many Samoan people?
They're big.
They can be very big, can't they? And so he's getting there, it's full fight, and this woman, and he's, by the way, given me permission to share this story. He said, the matriarch, and Samoan culture is a matriarchal culture.
Right.
So the woman's coming towards him, and she's not looking too happy to see him. And he goes, I'm sitting there, and she's coming towards me, and she looks up and down. Up and down. And he goes, I'm getting ready to... What? Oh, no. I'm getting ready, in his quotes, to get my ass kicked. And all of a sudden, her facial expression changes. And she looked at him with the kindest expression, and she goes, oh, honey, you miss your buddies. She had seen the badge ribbon. She had seen the badge ribbon. And what happened is when she saw the badge ribbon, she said, you guys be quiet over there. We got to be nice to our officer. He's having a bad day today. Just diffused the whole thing. And the reason I share that story is that this officer that called me, he said, Janet, you never saw me. I never came to any of the demobes or defusings. But he said, thank you for letting our chief tell that to us and give us permission to put the cast on our broken heart. So that's what I invite you to do, my friends, as we... Just wait for it to click. All right. Our senses are affected by stress. Okay? And how many of you have been affected by an aroma or a fragrance?
Oh, yeah.
And it's brought back a memory. Yeah. Okay. How many of you, when you were first dating someone, did you have a favorite song? Yep. Okay, for me, my first kind of significant relationship, it was Marvin Gaye. And so whenever I hear this Marvin Gaye song, and my people at the center were saying, what's wrong with you, Janet? I said, Marvin Gaye. That's all I could get out. And they said, well, dude, you better get over it. He's been dead for a while. I said, come on, I need some grief counseling. But this is very powerful, my friends, because we need to be able to have the awareness that our landmines, as we call them, and that's our past stressful events, can be triggered by 5 senses. What we call actually the 7th sense. What are the 7 senses? What do you imagine they are? Sight, touch, smell,
Visual,
Memory, sound,
see,
words.
intuition, and spiritual. So we have 7. Intuition and spiritual. We have 7 senses. And my friends, when you notice that, the 7 senses, and you notice you are being triggered, you may not know why you're being triggered, but just honor that you're being triggered. Because in the olden days we called it PTSD, didn't we? Post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, it sounded like you were stuck with it forever. Our team, along with several other teams and the military, are now calling it PTSI. Post-traumatic stress injury. What does an injury mean?
It'll heal.
It'll heal. So we've changed the whole perception. Post-traumatic stress injury. And we're even going to get it changed in the DSM-5. For those of you that know what the DSM-5 is, we're going to get it changed with law enforcement, responder, military folks that identify with the PTSD label. We're now calling it PTSI, and it's allowing people to come to get support and help with it because it's an injury. Yes, it's a huge, huge breakthrough. And with an injury, love can heal it, can't it? Love can heal it. My friends, we have a ton of techniques, but if they're all done without love, remember 1 Corinthians. If it is done without love, it doesn't mean anything. You can have the greatest skill, but if it is not done with love, you cannot do anything. So we're offering that it can become post-trauma growth. In other words, we can grow and make meaning from the pain in our life. And we can become deeper, richer, more loving, and more compassionate people. But again, it all goes back to you, doesn't it? Because what's going to happen, my friends? When we have a critical incident, we're going to what? Fight, flight, or freeze. What's the most damaging of those three?
Freeze.
Absolutely. And what are we trained to do if we want to keep our job and not mouth off?
Shut up.
In a staff meeting? Freeze. I mean, I've had to do it many times. I have actually a wonderful T-shirt that a retired sergeant made for me, and it says, "When in doubt, stick a sock in it." That's what like me holding a sock. It's adorable. But when we freeze, that's not an action-oriented response. If we run or if we fight, that's action-oriented, and it actually helps diffuse the stress hormones. Okay? So, with love, we can not have to do any of these three, but we can respond. In other words, if we are grounded in love, my friends, we can respond. We can pull this out, we can respond. And love then responds to us, doesn't it? And gives us the resources we need. This is so huge. Because love can heal the past. How many of you have heard about the backpack? If you've had to sit through any of my classes, you've been stuck hearing about the backpack. The backpack is all of the past losses and griefs we go through. All of the past losses and grief. So you have the present stress there. But it might be triggering some bigger things in the backpack, right? So what do we deal with? How do we attend to the backpack? Love. And it first starts with loving what's in our backpack, right? Unpacking the backpack. And how can we unpack the backpack?
With help.
With help. Throw it over the cliff. That's one way. That's one way.
Opening it up.
Opening it up. Acknowledging it. When we acknowledge the backpack might not be as heavy. Because when something is denied or ignored, it becomes twice as powerful. Something is denied and ignored. So attending the backpack, absolutely. We can do that with love. But it means that it's not going to be easy. And as a matter of fact, our perception really plays a big part in it. If we perceive that our stress is a negative thing, When actually what it's telling us to do is what? Attend to the backpack. So this is very important. There's a great new book out called The Upside of Stress by Kelly McGonigal. She's not a responder, she's not a caregiver really, she is a scientist. And what she says is that we've been telling people for years, for the past 25, 30 years, that stress is bad. Actually, stress is good. It's our body's natural response to any loss or change. So when we accept that stressful response, what happens? We can then start unpacking the backpack. Okay? So it's amazing how perception is. How do we build a new normal with meaning? And I want to talk about something for all of us here in this room. Because we are all givers and caretakers in our own ways. One of the things that happens is if we change our beliefs just a little bit, instead of, I will make a difference, I will make this better no matter what, we may not be able to do that. We may not be able to do that. But if we change it to, I can make a difference by my presence. I want you to all say that with me. I can make a difference by my presence. One more time. I can make a difference by my presence. What it does, my friends, is it gives us a way to show up, as my friend Barbara always says. That's her phrase. I'm stealing it from her. When we show up, that's all we have to do. And then get out of our own way. We just have to show up. You know, when I hear the thank you about nurses, about police officers, firefighters, paramedics, social workers, therapists, counselors, when I hear the thank you at the Center for Living with Dying, I don't hear the thank you about what you did. I hear the thank you about what you were. What you were, what your presence brought. It brought comfort. It brought healing. Officer Kevin, you know, and he said, Janet, I couldn't wait for you to get here. It's like, let me out of here. But he really made a connection with you. And his heart was really touched by you. And so, when we show up with all of our heart present, how do we keep that heart open when it's in hell? How do we keep that heart open? This is huge, my friends. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to mend and heal our own heart if we're going to do this work. Otherwise, we're just going to all be 51. We're all going to be crazy. Okay, we're just all going to be nuts. All right. This is it. How do we do it? How do we unpack the backpack? How do we heal our hearts? The infinity of giving and receiving. And let's just breathe that in for a moment. The infinity of giving and receiving. That's all we have to do. That's it. That's it. The power of love. So, there's our Heart Hotel. And the reason we bring it up is the Heart Hotel is actually what saved my life. One of my clients in a beautiful way said, you know, there's a room in my heart for everybody I love. And she said, when they die or they go away from me, no one can take their room. But she said, I'm kind of like Mrs. Winchester. She was a homeless woman, referred to us by the police department. And she had gone through many losses. And she said, so Mrs. Winchester does what? Keeps building those rooms. Keeps building those rooms. So that, my friends, is the Heart Hotel. We can build on many rooms. We never have to lose the love. We never have to lose the goodness or the memory. You know, I was talking, Mary and I were a part of, and the whole meditation group, Tom and Mary's meditation group, met on 9/11. when it happened, the day it happened, and we created a meditation group that usually met on the 11th of every month. And then a few years later, we made it on the first Monday of every month, which our beautiful April now facilitates, and I get to play with April. I love it. It's like the treat of she's amazing. But what happens with that Heart Hotel is I was talking to Squad 255, which is the crash and burn squad in Manhattan. And we had gone, when I'd gone back there, we had actually visited their firehouse. They had lost 15 of their firefighters in 9/11. And they said, you know, Janet, we still have them in our Heart Hotel. Is that amazing? They remember the Heart Hotel, and they said, you know what? We call it a Heart High Rise, because we're New Yorkers. What do you think? But I just want you to know in mind and keep in mind that we all carry the people that we serve in our Heart Hotel, each other in our Heart Hotel, and our ancestors in our Heart Hotel. Okay, the earth is our mother, but it's also our child. It's our heart and our community. So who is in our Heart Hotel?
Everybody.
Mother Earth. And all of her people. And all of her beings. And all of her plants. And all of her rocks. And all of her earth. Everything is in our heart. That's why our logo has what? The earth in our heart. Mary and I designed this logo, and with Dottie and Corky's help, it was amazing because I had many different iterations, and people were going, wow, Janet, that's like really complicated. Could you dumb it down a little bit? You know, you couldn't even tell what it was. But this was powerful. The earth is in our heart, and we are in the heart of the earth. Okay, we are in the heart. Remember, we are in the heart of the earth. By the way, my friends, for those of you that are kinesthetic, I would like to offer to you that we are going to have written handouts that will be given to all of you of this PowerPoint. So if you're worrying about writing things down, I apologize, I forgot to tell you, with a special little exercise. What do I mean by both and? It doesn't have to be either or. So how can I hold my opinion of maybe not always agreeing with what Trump says, okay, with the fact that he is a being on the earth and I'm going to send him unconditional love? Both are true. I don't have to deny one to activate the other. So it doesn't mean I always have to like the people that I'm supporting, but I can bring love to the equation. This is very powerful because I don't know about you, but for me, that allows me to be human and actually frees me up to be more loving. I don't have to like, and I don't have to agree. Acceptance doesn't mean agreement. I don't have to agree to accept you as a part of the universe that I love and that I can love.
Janet, may I?
Absolutely.
When I get really upset with my husband, I look at him and I say, I'm thinking about how much I love you.
Beautiful.
Because I may not like what he's doing, but I still love him.
Did everyone hear what Deirdre said?
Say it again.
Say it again, Deirdre.
I'm thinking about how much I love you.
Beautiful.
Even when you don't like him. Even when I don't like him.
I'm thinking about how much I love you. That's a great tool to put in our toolbox, my friends. Great tool to put in our toolbox. Okay, this is how we cultivate love. It's like a plant. As Dr. Eileen has said, we have got to connect with it in any way that we can. Via music, via food, via, memories, via our seven senses. This is how we have to connect with it. And it starts with being gentle with ourselves. So many times when I'm working with a client, I was working with a survivor of suicide was a firefighter that was very, very upset about one of his coworkers who had died by suicide. And he said, I'm just a piece of garbage. I don't do any good. He said, I was the last person to talk with him, and I didn't see that he was suicidal. Okay. Both and and, remember? Both and and. Do we have to validate that?
No.
Absolutely yes.
Yes.
We have to validate that because that's his truth. And then offer that you gave him that last connection. Does that make sense? We've got to validate because that is true. That is true for him. And if I tried to get him to his happy place, what would he have told me to do? Oh, we can't use it in this talk. So this is about, my friends, being gentle with yourself in the same way that we would be gentle with each other. So offering support, my friends, there's our hands to hands, heart to heart. And what don't we need? Okay? We're building the new normal. Now, I've got to share this with you. Are those adorable?
Yeah.
Are those adorable? When I saw those, I said, I've got to have those in my PowerPoint. I don't know where I'm going to stick them. But what are they doing? They're holding hands, and they're also lifting up. They're lifting up their energy beyond that small circle. And they're building the new normal. Because remember, love is action. Love is not a stagnant thing. Love is not a thing, it is a movement, it is an action, it is an energy. Okay. So, what don't we need? Just yell out some things. Oh, dang it. Corey warned me about this.
Judgment.
Judgment.
Negative criticism.
Exactly.
Let me tell you how to take care of it.
Ooh, advice. Yes. And what about fix it? Ooh, fix it. How many times have people tried to fix you? Does it work?
Save you. Or the war stories,
Or
where
the-
they say, oh, me too, and then they go
Right.
into their...
Right, and they go into their, exactly.
Anger from here.
War stories. Perfect. Okay, what do we need? Stuck on the don't need. Why do you imagine that we put honesty first? What connects us the fastest to each other?
Authenticity.
Authenticity. Thank you. That connects us the fastest. So if you can be your most authentic self, that's what's going to connect. That's going to connect. We need choice, don't we? Because remember, our incidents throwing us out of control, we need to have some way to have some choice to get back in control. Okay. Sometimes we need space. And sometimes we need to be listened to. And that's why I had my friend make the shirt, when in doubt, stick a sock in it. Because I can tend to blah, 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 blah. I need to just shut up. When in doubt, stick a sock in it. So whenever I'm not sure how to respond, stick a sock in it and just stay there. It's very hard.
I have a question. Would you say that acknowledgement is connected to compassion?
Absolutely.
So that...
Absolutely. Because when we acknowledge, we're holding it all in the arms of compassion. Absolutely. I mean, that's the only way that we can truly acknowledge it, is to be able to have the arms of compassion to hold it. Absolutely. All right. Our team, about 10 years ago, developed Walk Talk. And I'm going to give this to you as not only something you can use with another that is going through a difficult time, but you can use for yourself. Because when we are out in nature, we are connected to the five senses and to our Mother Earth. Whether it's stormy, whether it's rainy, whether the sun is out, whether the breeze is blowing, and we see the flowers, and especially this time of year, it's just a cacophony for the senses. And what happens is we're out in nature, and we are moving forward. Does anyone remember Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer?
Yeah.
He talks about dogs and people are very similar. When we are out and moving forward, we are getting back into control. And so I offer walk talk. And by the way, I've done this with people in wheelchairs. You don't have to be ambulatory to do walk talk. But it's a great way because you are moving forward.
I learned a new adverb.
Walk talk.
Counseling.
Counseling. Yes, it's less counseling. Now, that was a word that I made up many years ago because, when anything, if you're working with any first responders or nurses or healthcare providers, the minute they smell counseling, they are out the door. Am I right? And for good reason, because it's not always worked well. Because really, when we're responding in crisis or responding to pain, we might not need counseling. What we might need is a compassionate presence. Okay. And so these are our 2 triage questions that I invite you to ask yourself. First of all, reassuring. My stress response is normal. And then, what is the most difficult right now? What's hitting me the hardest right now? What hurts the most? What's the most scary? Because when we can start to triage this, and way in the olden days, I used to be an old ER nurse, so it's like triage was very important. What's the most important thing I've got to take care of with this patient coming in? If they're, have a broken leg, but they're bleeding out somewhere else, I got to be not focused on the broken leg necessarily, but focused on what's the most emergent. So this is the deal, my friends. What's the most difficult? And what do I need right now to get through it? And when we're working with someone else, when you ask that question, what do you need, it doesn't really work. But if you can say, well, let's brainstorm some ideas about what might help make this a little easier. Does that make sense? And, I said it. Only once. And one of the things about it is that there's no easy way over it, but we can go through it with love. Yes. All right, here are our tools for survival. Acknowledge, express, act, and celebrate. And that means reconnecting. And, these 4 steps are very easy, and we created them to make them simple so that when you're in deep crisis, okay, first I got to acknowledge it. Then I've got to get the details from the inside to the outside. Then I have to do my action step to make meaning. And then I have to reconnect with what still is good in my life. Again, it's that full circle. It's that infinity symbol again, isn't it? Reconnecting to what is good as I deal with what is painful and make meaning from it. I'm not going to take away the pain. This is very important. I'm going to make meaning from it. Okay? Your action step plan, I'm going to invite you as we go through this conference to think about what action steps you need to do in the name of love. What do you need to do? Grounding, the body never lies, and what's your personality type? What works for you? And it's good to know that. Okay. The village within. Those are your internal resources. So I want you to build your spiritual love team and connect with the wise one, the ancestor. It's very important. We've lost our connection with our ancestors. And the innocent, or the child. I'm going to invite you to connect to those 3 people in your internal village within, because they can often help you. They can be the posts, kind of the guideposts that help you get through it. And when you start to get to know them, then they will lead you to other people in your inner village. Alrighty. This is it. And I'm not going to go through this because many of you know this, but I think it bears being repeated. Just as Richard had us do, let us breathe. Breath of life. Give yourself a break. Move, eat, drink water, ground, identify, and write yourself a love letter. So, my friends, we are going to give out a handout where you can remember and write yourself a love letter. We're going to invite you to do that. There's a special card in each one of these envelopes. and we're going to invite you to write a love letter. And wanting you to remember that we have today. Be easy with yourself and savor what is good in your life. Because when you savor what is good, what does it do? It brings you back to grounding and love.
What?
So let's say it all together. The power of love. The power of love. And what I'm going to invite is Cheryl to come up. We're going to be singing a song that came to me actually at April's wonderful retreat. And I want you to remember something. If you don't remember anything else, you are a powerful, unique presence that nobody else can bring. So please, I invite yourself to open yourself up to that and know that you are enough and you make a difference every day. And it's just been my honor. As you walk your path of love, may you be blessed, may you be cradled, and may you be strong, and may you be you. The power of love.
You want to lift it up?
You want to lift it up? That's fine. I just invite you to take a deep breath, and as you look in your little love letter, just take this in. If I open up my heart to you, will you see the pain I've carried too? All the hurt I've held my lifetime through. Oh, if I open up my heart to you, will you hold my feet to the fire? Will you call me to be my higher self? And all that I give is like a garden of joy. Oh, if I open up my heart to you, will you see the pain that I've been through? Will you find my heartache too heavy to bear? Or will you open up to me and share? And the burdens will be lifted, and the heartache will be healed. If I open up my heart to you, lives with this magical breath. Will you hold out your hand? Will you open with me and take a stand for love? Take a stand for love. 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 Join us. Take a stand for love. 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 Take a stand for
So Janet,
Yeah, all of
could
them.
you
Thank you.
just stand with me for a minute because our president would like to thank you himself.
Come on over here. Young lady.
Hey there, E.
I already love it. He said, young lady.
First of all, Janet's lecture today is part of our Tuesday evening lecture series, so by listening to this, you're now 1 out of 8, and if you have 8 or more listens or attends to, you get a certificate in spiritual studies. So I printed this extra large. I wanted to read something because people see you, but they don't always know your background. So Janet Childs is a graduate of San Jose State in the field of nursing, worked briefly in the emergency room, a founding member of the Center for Living and Dying in 1974, and she's only 40, so currently Director of Education for the Center and the Training of Critical Incident Responders for the county and actually throughout the state, so please forgive me for reading from this, but it's more accurate that way. The woman who was called to New York City to support the incredible challenges to the first responders after 9/11/2001. The woman who still remains in touch and has become a part of their historical memory. As all of the responders from that even have either died or are retired, usually a medical retirement. A woman who, as all first responders, respond to the call. And she is always, no matter the hour or crisis, she usually brings her guitar, and if she has 5 minutes, may write a special song. Blessed to hear. Every time I look in her face, I see these just beams of light coming forth, so I'm kind of like... Janet has been a UCM minister since when?
Well, if John were here, he could tell us, because he was their sponsor.
He was
I think it was
Since the last century.
86 or 7.
86 or 7. I think it was
think
86 or 7.
A woman who teaches grief response to UCM ministers, who with her sponsoring minister initiated Take Back the 11th, a Monday prayer meeting, initially to pray for the first responders who had been so impacted, and now continues in prayers for peace. She selflessly brings her talents and energy and heart. Janet serves endless individuals, this church, this community, and internationally, even in places like Russia. Clearly a wonderful person who deserves recognition, which is now. So UCM believes in the acceptance of all pathways, the growth potential of all individuals, and our tagline is in service to humanity, and Janet certainly manifests those
And she walked
basic
with Martin
tenets
Luther King.
of UCM. Now, to my point. Churches like UCM have been granted the authority to make awards to individuals who have demonstrated educational expertise and/or provided community service. It is our pleasure to offer one of those awards to Janet today. So, Janet, would you please accept this honorary doctorate of divinity? My dear friends, I would like to present to you Reverend Dr. Janet Childs.
Speech!
Congratulations.
Thank you all. You know, and I just want to say that I could not do this without each and every one of you. I mean, I feel so connected. When I go out to very difficult, critical incidents, I take you all in my shoulders, on my shoulders, behind me. I feel all of you behind me. And, you know, it's amazing as I'm looking at Chris and Mary and people that are on our team that do the response work out in the field, and then they come and do the response work for us. I couldn't do it without all of you. And I mean, each and every one of you is such a gift of love and reminds me of the power of it. And I'm just blown away. I can't.
Yay!